Where there's smoke, there's fire.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the 606. I'm your host, as always, SES Vince. And if this isn't your first time swinging by the 606, welcome back. We first off, we just want to address the elephant in the room. We're a couple days late with this episode, and as you can see, it's more of a solo 606. It's just me, myself, and I going to be talking some basketball news, some rumors, some speculation, and one topic specifically. We're going to be talking about the LeBron James lottery. Who's going to win the LeBron Lotto? Which team will he select? Obviously, he's not returning to the LA Lakers. There's a few contenders, and I've decided to mock up a few scenarios of which fit I think works best with LeBron James, but also which ones are the most likely. Before we do that, I do want to go ahead and remind everyone to go ahead and like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube, whether that's at 606 Universe on the YouTube or at Wallen Media Inc. on YouTube. We're available everywhere audio podcasts can be found, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. We're available there. Check us out on social media at 606 Universe everywhere. And it's a strange time because LeBron James once again is making the decision. This is the three-peat of his decision. And we really don't know where he's going to go. There's a few options, obviously. So let's get into it. There's a few teams I want to number down here, and it's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's going to be the Miami Heat, the Golden State Warriors, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Philadelphia 76ers. These are all the teams that I think are realistic options for LeBron James, some more so than others. I think there is a big three, similar to the NBA draft this past offseason. We have a big three, but there's some dark horse big four. Shout out Caleb Wilson of my Chicago Bulls. There's a secret team in here that I think has a really good chance, and I kind of want to see. So with that being said, let's not waste any time, shall we? And let's talk about each of these teams one by one, like just kind of taking a look at what their projected lineup and their depth would be with LeBron on the team. Let's predict some NBA landing spots for LeBron James. And this is a team where it's a very much of a dark horse, but I really love the fit, not only for the vibes, but I think LeBron James would actually come in here and fill a need for this team. After the trade of Julius Randle to dump him out, to go ahead and then move Naz Reid for LaMelo Ball, the Minnesota Timberwolves are a very interesting team. They're a little bit small on the front court, so an addition of LeBron James could actually help. So let's look at the starting lineup. You have in the back court LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. And in the front court, you'd have Jaden McDaniels, a good defensive 3-and-D guy for them, and LeBron James, so he doesn't really have to focus too much on that end as well. He doesn't really have to focus on being a scorer. He's basically the third, maybe even fourth option if you, depending on what your views are on Jaden McDaniels offensively. And then you have a rim protector and Rudy Gobert, who is going to raise the defensive ceiling and will make it so that LeBron James doesn't really have to do too much on the defensive end. The bench is a little bit to be desired. Obviously, you got guys like Ayo Dosunmu, who they re-signed. A great guy at being here in Chicago. I loved him. I think he's a great pickup. You can see some lineups with him being at the 2 or the 3 alongside LaMelo and Anthony Edwards with Jaden McDaniels at the 4. I think that's a very realistic lineup to close out games that you will see with these T-Wolves should LeBron James not sign. Then you got guys as well in the perimeter: Bones Highland, Terrence Shannon Jr., Isaiah Evans, who they drafted in the second round, Jalen Clark, Josh Green, who they also picked up in the LaMelo Ball trade, Trey Lyles, who they signed, and Joan Berner. I'm probably mispronouncing and butchering the dude's last name, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here. They're very small and weak up front, so obviously an addition of LeBron James is going to greatly enhance the the potential of this team. Now, the one issue with this team and why I don't really see it too realistic is because they're in the Western Conference, where even with LeBron James, they're not the favorite or even the top three best teams in the West to make it out of the West to get to the NBA Finals. You have to give that to Oklahoma City and San Antonio, the 1A, 1B over there on the Western Conference. But then you also have teams like the Denver Nuggets that have probably the best player, if not at the very least the best center in the NBA, in Nikola Jokic, who, depending on who they surround him with in free agency, because they still have some questions to answer as well. We could see a very realistic situation where they're top three, top four, and then you have other teams as well, that are on the rise. You could see a Houston if they make some moves. The Lakers with Luka Doncic and all the moves that they have made. Dallas maybe takes a little bit of a leap. We don't know. The Clippers, how good are they going to be? Portland, they have a million point guards there. Will they work? Phoenix also is a team. So I think outside of those top two, maybe three, I think there is a chance for this team to make some noise in the Western Conference. But I think this is my dark horse pick. This is the Caleb Wilson of the LeBron James destinations, just because it probably has the most potential to be fun and great, but I don't really see it happening. If Minnesota was in the East, I'd give them a little bit more of a fighting chance to sign LeBron James. But besides the fact that there are some heavy hitters on the top of the Western Conference, there's also the question of LaMelo Ball. Can he be a winning piece in a playoff team, in a championship contending team? I don't think this team is championship contenders, even with the addition of a possible LeBron James in the front court. LaMelo Ball hasn't proven anything in the NBA, and I know that's not fair to him. I know I probably sound like a hater, but realistically, we don't really know what what LaMelo Ball will be able to provide to a championship or a playoff contending team. Winning basketball, that's what matters. We haven't really seen him in that scenario. So is it fair? I don't know. I don't think it's fair, but I think this lineup would be fun, and with the potential of an expansion draft happening within the next year or two, the Minnesota Timberwolves are one of the teams in contention to move over to the Eastern Conference in that scenario. However, I don't see LeBron James sticking around for another 1 to 2 years. This could be his last year. He could play another 2 or 3 years. We really don't know, but do you really want to hinge on them eventually moving over to the Eastern Conference? As much as I love this is more of a it's fun on paper and it's cool to do in 2K. And if this was a 2K roster team, you probably have enough right here to win the championship, but not the case in the association. Let's move on, though, to the next team that I think is also not very likely, but has been heavily rumored. That being the Golden State Warriors. We see the projected lineup here. Obviously, the original rumor was Draymond Green opted out of his player option of $27 million for next season to hopefully make it easier for the Golden State Warriors to work out a trade with the Washington Wizards to send Anthony Davis over to Golden State. LeBron James then being enticed to resign, and then Draymond comes back for a less number. So now you have a team of like Steph Curry, LeBron James, Draymond Green, Anthony Davis, Brandon Pajemski, Yaxel Lendenberg, and others, and that looks kind of cool. That feels like like the OGs coming in to get one last championship. I'd kind of be cool with that. I'd be down for that. I love that. Everyone's been wanting, or at least a lot of people have been wanting to see a LeBron James, Steph Curry team at some point in their careers. However, it may not be a realistic scenario. As you can see here, there's no Anthony Davis on my projected starting lineup. And you have an asterisk with Jimmy Butler because he's currently out with injury. He's going to miss the majority of the season, if not almost all of it entirely. What will he be able to provide to a team coming back from an injury, going into a playoff push. It really makes no sense. If there was an Anthony Davis on this team, I would see it a little bit more realistic. But once they brought back Kristaps Porzingis, and then they went ahead and brought back Al Horford and the Anthony Melton and all those other guys were there. Moses Moody is also there, but he's going to be missing time as well significantly. So, and Gary Payton's on there as a backup point, but he isn't re-signed just yet. But who can be brought back on the veterans minimum? But there's just too many holes in this team. Again, same questions and concerns with the Minnesota Timberwolves situation for LeBron James. Can he win a championship? And honestly, with this one, this is probably the scenario where LeBron's going to have to do the most. Even though you have a Steph Curry on the team, you're going to have to do the most, like offensively and defensively. So I don't think it's the best fit. Again, had they been able to work out a trade with Washington, who by all accounts was not interested in helping out Golden State and actually wanted to bring back Anthony Davis to see how he fits with AJ DeBansa and Trae Young over there in Washington, and Alex R as well in the front court. I can understand not wanting to do this. Like, what does it help? Like, you're not really going to get anything too crazy. The package of Jimmy Butler and salary for and future draft compensations way into the 2030s. Is that enticing enough? If you're Washington, do you feel like you can bring him back healthy, revitalize his not his career, but his value around the league? You can like recoup that value somehow and maybe get even more for him at the deadline. Maybe Golden State would be a little bit more desperate at that point and inkling to make that move. Maybe they'd be willing to throw in a Brandon Pajemski or Yaxel Lendenberg, even though it hinders what they're trying to do this season. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I just don't really see it here. Like as cool as it would be to see LeBron James and Steph Curry playing on the same team, I don't really see it as a realistic possibility. And Jimmy Butler even being on the starting lineup, if it was a fully healthy Jimmy Butler, I would like this team a little bit more. But even then, you have so many questions. The health concerns of Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, LeBron James, Steph Curry. That's a lot of guys in your starting lineup, all of them that can and probably will miss time in the following season. So if I'm LeBron James, I wouldn't go there. There's just too many variables. There's too many ifs, and then one injury could really just ruin the whole thing. So yeah, no, I don't really see this. This is probably my least likely at this point in time. At one point it was my leading contender, especially if they were able to make the AD trade, but that's not the case anymore. So let's move on to the big three, in this LeBron Lotto race. We can see LeBron taking his talents back to South Beach. The Miami Heat recently traded for Giannis Antetokounmpo. They went ahead and re-signed Andrew Wiggins. They signed Tim Hardaway Jr. They drafted Ryan Conwell. They also acquired Bobby Portis in the Giannis trade. So backup front court depth. They weren't able to unload Nikola Jovic, who hasn't really panned out how they would like him to. And this is kind of where a Miami Heat with LeBron James team would kind of look like. You'd have Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Bam Adebayo. Now, defensively, this looks like a really good team. Offensively is the issue. There's very little floor spacing. You do have Tim Hardaway Jr. there. Andrew Wiggins sometimes can knock down that shot, and LeBron has been more willing to take that 3-point shot, especially in the corner. But I don't know, like with this lineup, he's going to definitely be asked to be more of an offensive on-ball creator for this team. He's going to be the de facto point guard, so to speak, for this Miami Heat team, even though they do have Davion Mitchell. There's just not like a lot here. I know Bam Adebayo broke Kobe Bryant's scoring record last season, but he's not really that kind of a bucket getter. So there's just some questions, some concerns here. If I'm LeBron James, it would be cool. And honestly, you do got guys off the bench like Tim Hardaway Jr., Pelle Larson as well. I don't know. I feel like even with this lineup, I don't even think you're one of the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. You still have to make a lot more moves. Uh, I don't know. It would be cool to see Giannis and LeBron on the same team. That'd be fun to see. And it's one of the few destinations where I wouldn't be mad at LeBron for going there and deciding to end his career with Miami, making amends with Pat Riley. And if that's the case, maybe he's not done after this. Maybe he has 3 more seasons left in the tank. And Pat Riley, after this season, kind of like figures out what this team actually needs after a season playing together with Giannis, Bam, and the rest of the crew. Just make some adjustments and moves, not only at the deadline, but next off season as well. We'll see. This would have to be a destination where like he feels like, hey, this is my retirement home essentially, and I'm going to be here for more than one season. So Pat Riley, you've proven that you can build a team around me and build a winning championship team regardless. You just look at those Jimmy Butler teams that made it to the NBA finals, and you can kind of see where LeBron James would be like, well, they did that, no offense to Jimmy, but they did that with Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo being the best players on those teams, to like a lesser extent, Kyle Lowry. You look at the guys like LeBron James, Giannis, and Bam Adebayo, and you're like, well, the talent level is the best since the Heatles. So yeah, no, it's a very enticing scenario, but it would have to be a scenario where this can't be it, because obviously point guard is probably their biggest weakness there. And as long as they address the shooting, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some 3-point shooters out there they can get on some vet minimums. And it would be kind of interesting and ironic to see Andrew Wiggins and LeBron James sharing the perimeter, sharing the court together, given that Andrew Wiggins, the year he was drafted number 1 overall by the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was shipped off to Minnesota in that Kevin Love trade that sent him over to Cleveland. And we never actually got to see Andrew Wiggins and LeBron James play together. And there was legitimately some 2K fantasy leagues where they were like, oh, like the team of LeBron James, Andrew Wiggins, and Kyrie Irving, 3 former overall picks from Cleveland playing together. That would have been a fun, exciting thing. Who knows what Andrew Wiggins' career would have been like if that had happened. But, he's still a former NBA champion regardless. But this is about LeBron James. Sorry to go off topic there. Yeah, okay. This is probably the third likeliest one. I can still see it being a realistic option, especially if Pat Riley makes some moves here. But I don't know. It's not the worst spot, At least in this scenario, he's going to the Eastern Conference, where it feels like it's more up in the air. Yes, New York recently won the NBA championship, but they lost Mitchell Robinson, and who knows? There's going to be other teams in the Eastern Conference, some that we're actually going to be talking about here in a couple seconds. But then you also have Boston. They're still good. Philadelphia is a team. Cleveland's a team. Detroit is still a team. Indiana will Tyrese Halliburton actually be healthy enough to make them more of a contender. We'll see what happens there. So there's some option. Atlanta looks really, really good. They recently went ahead and acquired Lou Dort amongst other pieces. So they look like a really fun team. Even a team like Washington, Orlando, that maybe in that area from like 5 to maybe even 9 or 10, they could be in position. I feel like Miami isn't really the favorite. And then I haven't even talked about Toronto, and that whole team is also up in the air because we don't really know if Kawhi is going to go there. I think eventually he will end up in Toronto, but right now with the whole aspirations situation, the investigation into the aspiration scandal, we really don't know when that whole thing is going to wrap up. So yeah, no, there's no certainty in the Eastern Conference, so it's a little bit more wide open. It is the wild, wild west down in the East Coast. The other homecoming that LeBron James could do is the return times two, the return part two, him coming back home to Cleveland. This would probably be the most storybook ending that LeBron could have for his career. You go leave Cleveland after having a fantastic 7 or 8 years, I believe it was. Join Miami, win 2 championships out of 4 there, come back to Cleveland, and go to 4 consecutive NBA finals, winning at least one of them against the Golden State Warriors, and leaving the team, but coming back to potentially give them a second championship. I think that would be really cool. And if you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James kind of slots in perfectly to what they've been missing. This team, ever since the Darius Garland days, has been missing a wing that can kind of like fit and complement the rest of the team. But they're missing more of a 3-and-D kind of guy, a guy that can guard the team's best defender probably, and then spread the floor from the corner from a 3. That's not necessarily LeBron James in 2026. However, I still kind of like him here. Obviously, James Harden hasn't re-signed officially yet with the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I think that's more so a waiting game. They're kind of waiting for LeBron James to come in, them signing him, and then going over the cap to re-sign James Harden and give him that contract extension that they've been talking about. They already extended Donovan Mitchell, so they're already paying him. They've committed to him, and now you got to figure out Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Do they work together in the front court, or do you trade one or both of them to find that 3-and-D kind of guy that will help complement this team a little bit more, So that's kind of like my question here. So let's kind of like look at this lineup right here. You have James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, LeBron James, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. LeBron James doesn't have to do anything defensively or even offensively. He could just kind of be like that guy that can make some plays. Or, James Harden at points was better just playing off the ball with Kawhi Leonard in Cleveland. Kawhi Leonard being Cleveland in LA with the Clippers, with Kawhi Leonard being that perimeter on ball scorer type of guy, and James Harden being more of a complementary piece. And Donovan Mitchell kind of falls into that kind of Kyrie Irving role where he's kind of like the number one scoring option, but in the big moments, you can still see LeBron James making those plays towards the end. There's some potential here. You look at the reserves. You still have Dennis Schroeder, Sam Merrill, Malik Thomas, who I kind of really like from what I've seen in Summer League. You still have Max Strus, Jalen Tyson, Thomas Bryant, among others. We don't know what the rest of this team could be. I'm hearing scenarios where they trade Dennis Schroeder and Max Strus to save up some cap space, maybe even save up a roster space for like Bronny James, or maybe just kind of get some other complementary pieces on a lesser deal. So I don't know. I kind of like it. I think this is probably the most likely scenario for LeBron James to go, but that's just kind of like the safe guess. That's the safe bet here. It's not the most, sure thing for LeBron James to win a championship with this lineup. It's probably the best talent-wise, maybe. No, actually, it's not. It's not. It's the second best talent, like the starting lineup that he can join. But man, it would be so cool to see him come back. In a perfect world, that he comes back and they trade James Harden for Kyrie Irving, and then you bring back that whole reunion, make it a whole situation there with that. I don't know. You could see, honestly, lineups where like Jared Allen's played off, and then you have Evan Mobley at the 5, LeBron James at the 4, and you have someone playing like that Shane Battier, Mike Miller type role in Max Strus, where you playing like that small ball lineup. And we'll see if that could work. I don't hate this scenario, especially in the Eastern Conference. I give them a fighter's chance against New York. I give them a better chance to win the championship with this team than the Miami Heat team, even though that one has Giannis Antetokounmpo. My only issue there is that will Bam play? Will Giannis play? Do they have enough shooting? Here they have the shooting. The question is, can they all coexist sharing one basketball? So different issues, different questions to answer, So I guess we'll see. This is the second most likely destination for me, honestly. Well, no, actually, it's the most likely. Actually, this is my number one most likely scenario. Do I want to see it? Sure. I think all these scenarios I'd be perfectly okay with. Some more than others, obviously. But let's talk to the final one. And I think this is probably the best landing spot for LeBron James. And I think we all know where we're going here. That's, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers. If LeBron James comes in there, he fits in and slots in perfectly into that starting power forward position, exactly like what I highlighted with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have Tyrese Maxey, you have VJ Edgecombe, you just traded for Jaylen Brown, and all you really had to give up was Paul George in the future pick, who may not be valuable to you, may or may not. And then obviously you have Joel Embiid. When healthy, he's still one of the best centers, if not the best center in the NBA. You have Ariel Hukporti. I messed up that last name. I already know. Adem Bona, Dean Wade, who they signed, Dominic Barlow, Justin Edwards, Jabari Walker, Anthony Simons, who they also signed, and LeBaron Philon Jr., who fell to them in the first round to the 22nd pick. This is the best talent that LeBron James could join, aside from joining like a San Antonio or OKC or New York. Like, he really doesn't have to do anything. He just kind of has to sit there and kind of be the Draymond of this team. You have Tyrese Maxey, you have Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, VJ Edgecombe. You don't even have to worry about anything defensively. I think the biggest concern here is Joel Embiid's knees. Like, will they hold up? You have scoring punches off the bench in Anthony Simons and a young prospect and LeBaron Philon Jr., who looks like could be that in that contention for a point guard, a starting caliber point guard for either the Sixers or a team in the future. And you have some wings. Dean Wade, I think, is like a perfect complementary. They have a really good option in the center with Adem Bona, Ariel Hukporti as well. You have guys that can spell some minutes there for Joel Embiid. I know I'm fucking up these names, though. I know I'm fucking up these names, but it's okay. Just bear with me. Again, it would be interesting. This isn't a sure thing because unlike the other scenarios of Cleveland, actually, almost all these scenarios have new additions. So scratch that. Golden State is probably the most secure thing because they already have the chemistry there. And he just kind of has to fit in there. Then you look at Cleveland. They've already had a season fully playing together, and then he just kind of has to come in and basically take the Dean Wade spot at the starting lineup. You look at Miami, obviously you got some growing pains there because you're going to be adding Giannis Antetokounmpo. With the 76ers, you got to add a Jaylen Brown. Can he coexist? How will that fit with Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Joel Embiid? Who's going to be the number one guy? Who's going to be the number two? Who's going to be the number three? Who's we got to establish the pecking order here, offensively and just like within like the team in general. So we'll see. I do like Jaylen Brown. He's a winner. He's a former Finals MVP. So is LeBron James. Tyrese Maxey is one of the best guards in the NBA. VJ Edgecombe was one of the best wings in the draft last year that, like, as a rookie, really came in and gave you valuable minutes. And Joel Embiid, again, if healthy, that's the big thing with Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. If healthy, this team is very, very good. But even with a Joel Embiid injury, you still have Maxey, Edgecombe, Brown, Simons, Philon, Dean Wade, Justin Edwards, Jabari Walker. You have a plethora of guys where LeBron James doesn't have to worry about taking all that responsibility offensively, defensively, every single play, making something out of nothing. You saw what LeBron James, without Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, help lead that Lakers team to defeat the Houston Rockets in the first round of the NBA playoffs. So him coming in here is probably his best chance. Honestly, this might be my favorite to come out of the East if he does in fact join them. I really do hope he gets that number 23 because yeah, I just like him wearing 23 a lot better, unless he's going to Miami, obviously, But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is there some other team that I'm not thinking about? I think I narrowed them all down. I highly doubt he goes and did this whole thing just to bring himself back to LA. So with that being said, guys, those are the 5 options that I think LeBron James will be going. So let's do a little power ranking. Like, let's get our like bets on, figure out where he might go. I think the number one most likely landing spot for him would be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 2, I'm going to go ahead and say it's the Philadelphia 76ers, just because it's the best team he could possibly join without having to expend the most energy or efforts. And he can kind of coast through this through the regular season and just kind of like show up in the playoffs. Third being Miami, because you can never count out Pat Riley. And you still have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's still a top 5 player in the NBA if healthy. And he would be a really good Wemby stopper should you have to run into the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. So you got that. And then didn't mention it with Cleveland, but obviously with Cleveland, you have the whole returning home for the third time, ending your career where it started. So it'd be the narrative-wise storybook ending. That's probably the best one. Second behind Miami. Then you have Golden State, who I don't really think is likely. I think that's like number 4. And then, as much as I would love to see it, the fifth likeliest destination would be the Minnesota Timberwolves. There were other teams mentioned. I think another really good fit would be Denver, but I don't really see him realistically going to Denver. Other than that, it would be cool to see him in New York, but he already said he rolled that out. Had they not won the championship, LeBron would be in Nick. So yeah, hopefully he makes a decision soon. I'm recording this on Monday, and this will be up the next day. Hopefully he makes this decision soon, because it really is affecting free agency. You have guys like Jonathan Kuminga, DeMar DeRozan, and others that are kind of in limbo until this whole LeBron James scenario gets resolved, just because teams that are in the LeBron James lottery, as the title of this episode, they're kind of waiting to see if they win the lottery. If not, they're going to go get some more Powerball tickets, or get a couple scratchers here. And like, let's say Miami. Miami is a team that if they don't get LeBron James, I think they're going to pivot to like DeMar DeRozan for a shorter deal, like a smaller deal than LeBron would have signed for. But he's another guy that could be that on-ball creator. But again, you still have to go ahead and figure out the shooting issues on that team as well. Cleveland, if they don't land LeBron James, they have to pivot to someone else. Maybe they figure something out. They're going to obviously at that point just re-sign James Harden and then like fix everything around the margins and try to replace what they lost in Dean Wade, because that's going to be a big blow to them if they don't have LeBron on the team. Golden State is another DeMar DeRozan destination that I think should they miss out on LeBron James, I can see DeMar wanting to stay in California, like just not having to move that much, and then play in the Bay with Steph Curry. He can be that second scoring option, and then when Jimmy Butler comes back, either trade Jimmy or see how that potential lineup works together. Obviously, the floor isn't going to be spread out, and the spacing, it would be an issue. So we'll see. I really do want to see DeMar go back to Toronto, though. That's probably like my ideal scenario. Either that or him going back to San Antonio, because I really do want him to win the championship. But no, it's gonna be a snail's race to get an answer, because I don't think LeBron is in any rush to make his decision, and we're all just gonna sit here and wait until he does. Sorry, Jonathan Kuminga, because I know for a fact some teams are waiting to sign you just in case they don't get LeBron James. So with that being said, I do want to go ahead and remind everyone, if you did enjoy this episode, go ahead and give it a like on YouTube, on all the audio platforms. Go ahead and subscribe on YouTube at 606 Universe, at Wallet Media Inc. Turn on the bell notification so you know when we drop a brand new video, brand new episode, and you don't miss out on that content. We're available on all the audio platforms that I just mentioned earlier at the top of the episode, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Those are the big three. Check us out over there. Check us out on social media at 606 Universe. We're over there. You can follow me at SES Vince if you want to talk hoops, you want to talk wrestling, you want to talk anything else. We'll be over there. And we'll be back with another episode. We're going to be talking the Toronto Raptors. So for all the Wallet Media fans that are Canadian, north of the border fans, you know, we're going to be talking about you guys. We got an off-season report for the Raptors. We're going to see, hopefully, maybe by the time we record that episode, we have a resolution to the Kawhi situation, but we'll see. There's a lot of situations that need to get resolved in the NBA right now, right? Yeah, I guess so. But with that being said, guys, I've been your host as always, SES Vince. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Later, y'all.